Hey guys, so I'm currently working on a small passion project from Indonesia, and as I'm color grading it, I've decided that I'm going to show you my color grading process because quite a few of you have asked how I color grade my footage. Just a small disclaimer, I'm no professional colorist, but I really enjoy color grading, and I would even say that I'm quite good at getting consistent and good looking results. Now, you might be asking why you should learn color grading when there are actually professional colorists, and there's a few reasons. I think that color grading can drastically improve your project, and especially if you're working on your passion and personal projects, knowing a little bit of color grading can really save you some money because you can grade the project yourself. At the same time, color grading is a sellable skill, so if you can add it to your filmmaking arsenal, you can also use it to make some extra money, either while traveling or doing remote color grading jobs. So in today's video, I'm going to show you one of my color grading processes, and it's the easiest one. And in this one, I'm actually going to be using LUTs because I believe that if the LUTs are made by professional colorists, then why shouldn't you use them? It can speed up your workflow, it can make your job easier, and you can get better and more consistent results. So let's just jump into DaVinci Resolve and let me show you how I color grade my footage. I'm in DaVinci Resolve 18 and I have 4 clips here that I'm going to be color grading. Let me just show you my color settings. So I'm not using color managed workflow. And for that reason, I just keep it as it is in DaVinci Resolve. Color Science, DaVinci YRGB, Timeline Color Space Rec 709 Scene, and Output Color Space Red 709 2.4 Gamma. Now, I'm going to be using a note tree that I created. If you don't know what note tree is, it's basically a pre-saved note tree that you can then apply to your clips, and it works as a preset. So let's use this one, which is called Vision. And as you can see, suddenly the notes appear and they have certain names. And this color grading process is based on this Vision LUT. This is a LUT from Joel Famularo. He's a great DP and colorist. And it's a reproduction of a Kodak Vision film stock. Now the LUT has been made for Sony a7S III, but I don't have any Sony footage. And because of that, I'm using a color space transform here. I'll get back to it later. Let's just quickly go over the note tree. So we have first noise reduction, balance, primary exposure. Then I have this Kinelog to Arilog C LUT because I'm using Kinefinity footage. Color space transform. Then I use 2 HDR wheels to control the exposure and have more precise control. Saturation, split, HSL, power windows and outside nodes, LUT. Then I have another LUT here if I would want to switch these. And then I have some sharpening. I'll move it here. And then I can also add skin node just to balance the skin tones. So, as I said, based on a Vision LUT that is made for Sony, but because we don't have Sony footage, we need to transform the Kinefinity footage. So I'll go to this node, which is a color space transform, and as you can see is already set because I have it saved in the note tree. So I'm treating the Kinefinity footage as ARRI footage because it's very similar, and then I'm transforming it into S-Log Gamut 3 Cine and Output Gamma Sony S-Log 3. I don't need no tone mapping and I don't need to apply any forward OOTF. So this is the setting, and then from here I basically start color grading. Sometimes I use this LUT, which transforms the Kinefinity footage into ARRI. And as you can see, if I turn it on, off and on, it just gives a little more green tint and more saturation to the image. But for the sake of this video, I'm not going to use it. So the first thing I do, I start with balancing the footage. For that, I use my offset in the primaries. And I just look at the vectorscope here. And I just try to get the color spectrum more into the middle while also keeping a look at the skin tones. So this looks pretty good before and after. You can see that the footage suddenly popped up much more. Then I'll go to primaries and I use this one just to manage the exposure of the image. The way I do it is I go to gamma and then I change to linear, and then I can use my gain to control the exposure the same way as if I was adding or taking away stops. So this should be, let's park it somewhere around here. And then the next step will be saturation. For saturation, I use a node and I change my color space to HSL, which stands for hue, saturation and luma, gamma 2.4, and then I turn off channel 1, which is the hue, and I turn off channel 3, which is the luma. So all I'm left with is channel 2, saturation, and then I can use my gain again to add saturation to the image. I always go a little too overboard and then I bring it down, probably somewhere around here for now. And as you can see, the image already looks much better from log to this. Now the next step, I'm gonna go to my HDR wheels, and because I'm not using color managed workflow, I need to tell this node which color space I'm using. And because I transformed from ARRI to Sony, I'm gonna tell the nodes that I'm using S-Log3 Cine, and then that allows me to get more precision over the image. So what I could do here, if I look at my waveform, I could bring down the shadows a little bit, and I could also bring down the blacks. We don't want to crush them, so let's park it somewhere around here. That's looking pretty good. If I would want to, I can do more tweaks. I could, for example, go here and I could bring down the highlights a little bit. As you can see, we're changing the highlights on his head, maybe around here, just under that 768 line on the vectorscope. And this is what we have right now. Next step, I would add a power window. Actually, before power window, I want to bring the leaves a little more to the orange. So I'll go to HSL, I'll open the color warper, and I'm gonna make it bigger. And then I'm just gonna grab the whole spectrum around here, the greens, like so. And then I'm just gonna change the hue a little more towards the yellows and oranges, like so. And I could either increase the saturation or decrease, but I think I'm just gonna leave it right about here as it was. Let me show you the before and after. And the next step would be a power window. The way I like to do power windows is that I have one node and then I have an outside node. So I'm gonna select the subject. I'm gonna feather the window a lot. I'm gonna place it around here, quite big to be honest. And then I'm just gonna bring the gain a tiny bit to make him pop, like so. And then as you can see, the outside node basically selects the opposite. So what I can do now, I can bring down the offset, and because I don't want to crush the blacks, I'm just gonna reduce the contrast a little bit. I'm gonna show you before and after. So before and after. Now you can see that we are directing the viewer much more towards the subject. Last two things that I would do, or actually three things, is I would go and I would denoise the footage. As you can see, I shot it a bit underexposed, but nothing we can't fix. So we're gonna go here. This is how I set my noise reduction, and then here, maybe around here. So before and after. And because we used noise reduction, I also like to add sharpening. We actually already have it on the footage, but let's add a little more, maybe 40. 47 is good. So let me also show you before and after. Before and after. It just gives a little more pop to the image. I'm not sure if you can see it because of the YouTube compression. And if I would want to, I also have a grain node and halation node, and I could add these effects to the image. But for the sake of this video, let's not do it. Let me just show you how we can use this power grade on a different type of footage. So as I said, this is Kinefinity footage, but I also have Panasonic footage. So I'm gonna apply the same power grade. Here we go. And footage is not looking too well, but that's because we are transforming here from ARRI to S-Log. But because this is Panasonic footage, we have to transform from Panasonic. So Panasonic V-Log, where is it? Here. And to Sony S-Log3 Cine. You can see suddenly looks much better. And then I basically go about the color grading the same way as before. I'll probably go to my primaries. I think I'll reduce the exposure a little bit. This was shot at the evening or just before sunset. Right about here, I'll go to balance. I'll look at my vectorscope and I'll just try to balance this a little more. Yeah, you kind of have to play with this, but I think somewhere around here is good. I'm gonna bring up the saturation. Again, the node is set to color space HSL, gamma 2.4, and then channel 1 and channel 3 is off. And then I can just use my gain to give the image more saturation. I'll go too much and then I'll bring it back right about here. And then I think that this image also needs a little contrast. So I'm gonna do it here. I'm gonna check if this is set well. No. So again, we set it to Sony S-Log and then tiny bit of contrast. And I also think that I wanna brighten the image a little bit, especially the bright parts. So maybe around here, before, after, looking pretty good. I will probably add even more saturation and I'll just focus on maybe around here. I like how the blues are, but I don't like the oranges, so I'm gonna bring the oranges down and I'm gonna make a skin node here, use the color warper, and I'm gonna select, let me just make it bigger, and then I'm gonna select it just like this, just quickly. Reduce the saturation and maybe turn it a little more yellow, so somewhere around here. And as you can see, it's looking pretty good. What we can do is add the power window again, very quickly, boom, boom. We focus more on this side of her face, probably around here. Bring this up a tiny bit, maybe reduce the shadows a little bit, and then do the opposite here. Bring this down, reduce the contrast, and this is before and after. So just slightly bringing more attention to the subject. As you can see, the Note 3 works on vlog footage as well. So it doesn't really matter what camera are you using, as long as you're shooting in log profile and you have at least 10 bits of color depth. And that's basically it, guys. As you can see, very simple and straightforward color grading workflow. I use it mostly for my YouTube videos, for small personal projects, or for quick turnaround client work. But if I'm working on something bigger or something that I really want to put effort into, I use DaVinci Wide Gamut Color Manage workflow. So if you would want to see a tutorial for that, let me know in the comment section below. Now, I also do one-on-one coaching where you can learn about color grading, but also storytelling, filmmaking, and directing. Again, the link is in the description below. So if you want to take your filmmaking skills to another level, have a look at that. That's it for today. And as always, I'll see you next Tuesday with the next video. Peace.